empire. He is a billionaire real estate tycoon known as the Ice Emperor, a man who destroys competitors for sport, a man who has never, in 30 years of business, been left without a word to say. But look at his face. Look closely. His mouth is slightly open, hanging slack. The color has drained from his cheeks, leaving him looking pale and almost sick. His eyes, usually sharp and predatory like a hawk, are wide with mixture of shock and something he has not felt in decades. Fear. Pure, unadulterated fear. His hand is frozen in midair, clutching a linen napkin. He looks like a man who has just seen a ghost. Or worse, he looks like a man who has just looked in the mirror and seen a monster staring back. And standing directly across from him is the cause of this paralysis. It is not a rival businessman. It is not a government regulator. It is not a lawyer serving him papers. It is Sarah. Sarah is 24 years old. She is wearing a cheap black polyester uniform that is slightly too big for her shoulders. Her shoes are worn down at the heels from walking 10 miles a shift. She has bags under her eyes from working double shifts to pay for her tuition. To Mr. Yamamoto, 5 minutes ago, she was nothing. She was furniture. She was an insect, a clumsy, stupid girl who wasn't even worth the air she breathed. But look at her now. Her back is straight. Her chin is lifted. There is a fire burning in her brown eyes that is hotter than any oven in the kitchen. She is holding a silver water pitcher in one hand, but she might as well be holding a sword. She has just spoken. She didn't shout. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply opened her mouth and delivered a sentence so perfect, so devastatingly precise, that it cut through the billionaire's armor like a diamond cutter through glass. And she did it in flawless, high-level Japanese. The two junior executives sitting with Mr. Yamamoto are trembling, literally trembling. One of them has dropped his fork, and it is lying on the tablecloth, a silver scar on the white fabric. They are looking from their boss to the waitress, their brains unable to process what just happened. They were laughing at her 30 seconds ago. They were mocking her intelligence. They were calling her useless. Now, they look like children who have been caught stealing candy. The air in the room is so thick with tension, it feels like it might snap. The other diners have stopped eating. The manager, Mr. Peterson, is frozen near the kitchen door, his face a mask of purple horror. He thinks his waitress has just ruined the most important dinner of the year. He is wrong. She hasn't ruined dinner. She has just reclaimed her soul. You see, what happened here wasn't just a comeback. It wasn't just a clever retort. This was a public execution of arrogance. Have you ever wondered what it looks like when the invisible people of the world finally decide to be seen? Have you ever wondered what happens when the quietest person in the room turns out to be the most dangerous? Most of us go through life feeling small. We let people talk down to us. We let bosses or customers or strangers treat us like we don't matter. We swallow our pride because we need the paycheck, because we need to survive. We tell ourselves it is okay. We tell ourselves to just keep our heads down. Sarah Williams told herself that every single day for 3 years. Until tonight. Until the moment the Ice Emperor made the mistake of thinking that her uniform defined her worth. He thought he could insult her in a language she wouldn't understand. He thought he was safe behind his wall of money and foreign words. He was wrong, and he is about to learn the most painful lesson of his life. But to understand the true weight of this moment, to understand why a billionaire is sitting there looking like his world has just ended, we have to go back. We have to rewind the clock. We have to leave this frozen, silent dining room and go to a tiny, drafty apartment in East London 24 hours earlier. We need to meet the girl behind a uniform before she became the legend who took down a tycoon. This is not just a story about a waitress and a billionaire. This is a story about the secrets we keep, the dignity we fight for, and the absolute power of knowledge. My name is Gemini, and I am going to tell you exactly how one perfect sentence can change a life forever. Stay with me, because the storm is coming. Let's turn the clock back. Tick-tock, tick-tock. It is 6 a.m. on a gray, rainy London morning. The kind of morning that seeps into your bones and makes you want to pull the covers back over your head. In a small basement flat in Hackney, an alarm clock buzzes. It is an angry, rattling sound. Sarah reaches out a hand from under a thin duvet and slaps it off. She sits up, shivering immediately. The heating in her building has been broken for 2 weeks, and the landlord keeps saying he will get around to it. Her breath creates a small cloud of white mist in the dim light of the room. Look around this space. It tells you everything you need to know about who Sarah is. It is tiny, maybe 200 square feet. The wallpaper is peeling in the corners. There's a small kitchenette that smells faintly of damp and old tea bags. But look closer at the details. On the wobbly wooden desk in the corner, there are stacks of books, towers of them, but they are not gossip magazines or easy novels. They are heavy academic texts, advanced linguistics, the sociology of East Asian communication, the structure of honorifics in modern Japan. And on the walls, look at the walls. Tape pinned everywhere are flashcards, hundreds of them, kanji characters written in neat, meticulous black ink, vocabulary lists, grammar structures. This is not the room of a career waitress. This is the war room of a scholar. Sarah stands up and walks to the small mirror over the sink. She splashes cold water on her face. She looks tired. There are dark circles under her eyes that no amount of cheap concealer can hide. She worked a double shift yesterday, and she was up until 2 a.m. finishing an essay for her master's degree. She touches her reflection. Just a few more months, she whispers to herself. Just hold on, Sarah. Get the degree. Get the job. Get mom out of debt. She opens her small closet. Hanging there like a shroud is her uniform. The black trousers that are a little too shiny from wear. The white shirt that she has bleached 100 times to keep bright. The black apron. She hates this uniform. It is not because she thinks the work is beneath her. Sarah respects hard work. Her mother cleaned houses for 20 years to put food on the table. Sarah knows the value of labor. No, she hates the uniform because of what it does to her. When she puts it on, she disappears. The moment she ties that apron string, she ceases to be Sarah Williams, the brilliant linguistic student who graduated top of her class in undergrad. She ceases to be the girl who lived in Tokyo for a year and charmed an entire neighborhood with her warmth. She becomes just the waitress. She becomes invisible, a pair of hands to serve food, a pair of ears to hear complaints, a non-person. She pulls the shirt on, buttoning it up to her neck. She ties her dark hair back into a tight, severe bun. No loose strands allowed. Mr. Peterson, her manager, finds staff for loose hair. She grabs a piece of toast, dry because she ran out of butter 2 days ago, and heads out the door. The commute is a battle. The tube is crowded, hot, and smells of wet wool and sweat. Sarah stands squeezed between a businessman reading the Financial Times and a teenager playing loud music. She closes her eyes and practices verb conjugations in her head. It is her escape. It is her secret garden. 40 minutes later, she arrives at the royal table. The restaurant is empty at this hour, but the air is already tense. The cleaners are vacuuming the plush carpets, leaving perfect geometric lines. The kitchen staff are already chopping vegetables, the rhythmic thud-thud-thud of knives against cutting boards sounding like a drumbeat for war. Sarah walks into the staff changing room, and there she is, Victoria. If Sarah is the protagonist of this story, Victoria is the thorn in her side. Victoria has been at the royal table for 6 years. She is beautiful in a sharp, cold way. She treats the restaurant like her personal kingdom and the other servers like her serfs. Victoria is applying lipstick in the mirror. She sees Sarah enter and doesn't turn around. She just speaks to Sarah's reflection. "You're late," Victoria says. Her voice is like syrup laced with arsenic. Sarah checks her watch. "I'm 5 minutes early, Victoria." Victoria smirks. She caps her lipstick with a sharp click. "Are you?" "My watch says you're late." "Better be careful, Sarah. Mr. Peterson is in a mood today. I heard him screaming at the sous chef. One wrong move and..." She makes a cutting motion across her throat. Sarah ignores her and goes to her locker. She knows why Victoria hates her. It started 3 months ago when a French diplomat came in for dinner. He was struggling to explain his dietary restrictions in English. Victoria was floundering. getting frustrated, raising her voice as if shouting would help him understand. Sarah had stepped in. She spoke to the diplomat in fluent, elegant French. She calmed him down, took his order, and made him laugh. The diplomat had left Sarah a massive tip and told Mr. Peterson she was a treasure. Victoria has never forgiven her for that. To Victoria, Sarah isn't a colleague. She is a threat that needs to be eliminated. Oh, by the way, Victoria says, leaning against the lockers, "Have you heard the news?" Sarah sighs. "What news?" "We have a VIP tonight. A big one." Victoria's eyes gleam with malice. Takashi Yamamoto, the Japanese billionaire. He booked table 7. Sarah pauses. Everyone knows that name. Yamamoto is legendary, not just for his money, but for his temper. He is known to make grown men cry in boardrooms. "So?" Sarah asks, trying to sound casual. "So?" Victoria smiles, a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Peterson was going to give the table to me. Naturally, I am the senior server. But I told him, you know what? Sarah's been working so hard. She needs the tips more than I do. Maybe we should give her a chance to shine." Sarah feels a cold knot form in her stomach. Victoria never does favors. Never. "Why would you do that?" Sarah asks suspiciously. "Because I'm a generous soul." Victoria laughs, but then her face hardens. She leans in close to Sarah. "Or maybe because I know Yamamoto eats waitresses for breakfast. He is impossible to please. He hates everything. And when he inevitably explodes, I want him to explode at you." She pats Sarah on the shoulder. It feels like a slap. "Good luck, darling. You're gonna need it." Victoria walks out, leaving the scent of expensive perfume and dread in the air. Sarah stands there alone in the locker room. She looks at her hands. They are shaking slightly. She clenches them into fists. "You can do this." She whispers. "It's just dinner. It's just plates and glasses. He is just a man." She has no idea. She has absolutely no idea that in less than 10 hours, that man will try to destroy her dignity. She has no idea that the trap Victoria just set for her is actually destiny knocking on the door. Sarah takes a deep breath, smooths down her apron, and walks out onto the floor. The stage is set. The actors are in place. And the Ice Emperor is on his way. To understand why the explosion at dinner was so powerful, you have to understand the pressure cooker that Sarah was living in. You have to understand that she wasn't just having a bad day. She was having a bad life. Let's go back to that tiny apartment in East London. It is 5:30 in the morning. The air inside the room is heavy. It smells of 3 things: damp plaster, cheap instant coffee, and exhaustion. Sarah sits on the edge of her bed. Her mattress is thin, the kind that lets you feel every single spring digging into your back. She rubs her eyes, and for a moment, she just sits there staring at her feet. Her feet are the map of her suffering. They are swollen. The skin around her heels is raw and red, rubbed away by the cheap, stiff leather of her work shoes. Every step she takes today is going to hurt. Every single one. But she doesn't have the luxury of calling in sick. She doesn't have the luxury of resting. She reaches for a tube of generic pain relief cream on her nightstand. She squeezes the last bit out, slathering it onto her blisters. It stings. A sharp, biting pain that makes her hiss through her teeth. But she welcomes the sting. It wakes her up. On the wall above her bed, taped up with scotch tape that is losing its stickiness, is a photo. It is a picture of Sarah 2 years ago in Tokyo. She is wearing a colorful summer kimono, a yukata. She is standing next to an older Japanese couple, the Tanakas. In the photo, Sarah is beaming. Her eyes are bright. She looks alive. She looks like a person with a future. She touches the photo gently. That year in Japan was the only time in her life she felt truly seen. You see, Sarah grew up poor. The kind of poor where you dilute the milk with water to make it last longer. The kind of poor where you learn to be invisible, because being noticed usually means being in trouble. But in Japan, when she spoke the language, when she bowed correctly, when she used the proper honorifics, she wasn't poor. She wasn't the girl from the bad part of town. She was cultured. She was respected. Japanese wasn't just a subject she studied. It was her armor. It was the only place she could go where the world made sense, where rules were followed, and where dignity was given to everyone, regardless of how much money they had. But that was Tokyo. This is London. Sarah stands up. Her knees pop. She walks to the small kitchenette. There's a stack of bills on the counter. Final notice. Overdue. Please call us. They are for her mother's medical treatments. Sarah's mom worked 2 cleaning jobs for 20 years until her back gave out. Now, it is Sarah's turn to carry the weight. She picks up the bills and shoves them into a drawer, so she doesn't have to look at them. Focus, Sarah, she whispers. Just get through the shift. Get the tips. Pay the rent. She gets dressed. The uniform is black. Black trousers. Black shirt. Black apron. It is the color shadows. It is designed to make her blend into background. She leaves the apartment and steps into gray morning drizzle. The commute to the royal table is a journey between 2 different planets. She takes the bus to the tube station. The bus smells of wet raincoats and diesel fumes. People are coughing. A baby is crying. It is the smell of struggle. Then she gets on the underground. 40 minutes of rattling darkness. She puts her headphones in. She doesn't listen to pop music. She listens to a podcast on advanced Japanese business etiquette. Keigo is a language of distance and respect. The voice in her ear says, "It is how we show humility." Sarah mouths the words along with the recording. Humility. Respect. She arrives at Mayfair. The atmosphere changes instantly. The air here smells different. It smells of expensive perfume, freshly ground Arabica coffee, and money. The streets are clean. The cars are sleek and silent. She walks into the service entrance of the royal table. It is like entering a fortress. The royal table is not just a restaurant. It is a theater. The dining room is a masterpiece of gold leaf and crystal chandeliers. The carpet is so thick it feels like walking on clouds. But Sarah doesn't get to walk on the clouds. She has to stick to the service paths. She clocks in. 10 a.m. The kitchen is already a war zone. Chefs are shouting. Pans are clanging. The heat is rising. And then there's Victoria. We need to talk about Victoria. Every workplace has a Victoria. She is the person who peaked in high school and has decided to make everyone else pay for it. Victoria is 30, beautiful, and absolutely terrified that someone younger and smarter is going to take her spot. She sees Sarah walking in and immediately narrows her eyes. "You look tired, darling," Victoria says, loud enough for everyone to hear. She is polishing wine glasses with a lint-free cloth. Rough night? Or just natural deterioration? Sarah keeps her head down. "Good morning, Victoria." "Your hair is messy," Victoria snaps. She reaches out and yanks a loose strand of Sarah's hair. "It hurts." "Fix it. Mr. Peterson will fine you 10 pounds if he sees that. And we both know you can't afford to lose 10 pounds, can we?" The other servers chuckle nervously. They don't hate Sarah, but they are terrified of Victoria. In this ecosystem, Victoria is the apex predator. Sarah is the prey. "I'll fix it," Sarah says quietly. "And your shoes," Victoria points a manicured finger at Sarah's feet. "Look at the scuffs. They are disgraceful. Honestly, Sarah, do you even try? You walk around here like a bag of laundry. It brings the whole brand down." Sarah feels the heat rising in her cheeks. She spent 20 minutes polishing those shoes last night, but the leather is so old it won't hold a shine anymore. She can't afford new ones. Not until next month. "I'm sorry," Sarah says. The words taste like ash in her mouth. She is always apologizing. Sorry for existing. Sorry for being poor. Sorry for taking up space. She goes to the staff bathroom to fix her hair. She locks the door and leans against it, closing her eyes. She takes a deep, trembling breath. This is the hardest part, the transition. She has to take all of her intelligence, all of her pride, all of her dreams, and lock them in a little box deep inside her chest. She has to put on the mask. The mask is a smile, a fake, plastic, subservient smile that says, "I am here to serve you. I have no needs. I have no feelings. I am just a machine that brings you food." She looks in the mirror. She redoes her bun, pulling it so tight it pulls at her scalp. She checks her teeth. She practices a smile. Welcome to the royal table. How may I help you? Her voice sounds hollow. She walks back out. The lunch rush begins. It is brutal. The customers at the royal table are not normal people. They are the ultra-rich. Some of them are nice, sure, but many of them look at the staff the way you look at a vending machine. Sarah runs. She doesn't walk, she power walks. Kitchen to table. Table to bar. Bar to kitchen. Water, please. The soup is cold. I didn't order this. Can you move faster? Her feet are burning. The blisters she doctored this morning have popped. She can feel the dampness in her socks. It is blood. Every step is a sharp stab of agony. But she smiles. Certainly, sir. Right away, madam. My apologies. By 3 p.m., the lunch rush dies down. Sarah is trembling with fatigue. She hasn't eaten since that dry toast at 6 a.m. She is clearing a table near the window when she hears Mr. Peterson's voice. It is high-pitched and frantic. Everyone, kitchen. Now, Mr. Peterson is the manager. He is a sweaty, nervous man who lives in constant fear of bad reviews. He treats the wealthy customers like gods and his staff like garbage. The staff gathers in the kitchen. The air is thick with tension. Listen to me, Peterson hisses, wiping sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Tonight is the most important night of the year. We have a VIP booking. A VVIP. He looks around the room, his eyes bulging. Takashi Yamamoto is coming. A murmur goes through the staff. Even the head chef looks up from his chopping board. The Ice Emperor? Someone whispers. Yes. Peterson snaps. He is dining at 7 p.m. He has requested the center table. Table 7. Peterson starts pacing. Mr. Yamamoto is particular. He is difficult. If anything goes wrong, if a single fork is out of place, if the water is not the right temperature, he will destroy us. He has shut down restaurants for less. Do you understand? Yes, chef. Everyone mumbles. Peterson stops pacing. He looks at Victoria. Victoria, you are my best server. But he hesitates. He looks at Sarah. Sarah feels a cold chill. She knows that look. It is a look of a coward looking for a scapegoat. Victoria, Peterson says, Mr. Yamamoto is known for being aggressive. If he is unhappy, he can be very nasty. Victoria smiles. It is a slow, serpentine smile. She knows exactly what Peterson is thinking. She steps forward. Mr. Peterson, Victoria says, her voice smooth as silk. You are right. It is a high-risk table. And honestly, I've been feeling a bit under the weather today. I wouldn't want to cough on a billionaire, would I? She turns her head and locks eyes with Sarah. Her eyes are glittering with cruelty. But Sarah here, she's been working so hard. She needs the experience. And I think she has the resilience for a man like Yamamoto. Don't you think, Sarah? It is a trap. A blatant, obvious trap. Victoria doesn't want to serve Yamamoto because she knows he is a nightmare. She wants Sarah to take the fall. If Sarah fails, she gets fired. Victoria wins. Peterson looks at Sarah. He doesn't see a human being. He sees a disposable buffer. If Yamamoto screams, let him scream at the poor girl. Right? Peterson decides. Williams, you have table 7. Sarah's heart drops into her stomach. Mr. Peterson, don't argue with me. Peterson shouts. You should be grateful. The tips could be enormous. Just don't mess it up. If you embarrass this restaurant, Williams, you are done. Do you hear me? You will never work in this city again. Sarah looks at Victoria. Victoria winks. A tiny, imperceptible wink. Good luck, sweetie, Victoria mouths. The meeting breaks up. The staff scatters to prepare. Sarah stands there for a moment, paralyzed. She is exhausted. Her feet are bleeding. She is hungry. And now, she is about to walk into the lion's den. She walks over to table 7. It is perfectly set. The crystal shines under the lights. It looks beautiful. It looks like an altar for a sacrifice. Sarah grips the back of one of the chairs. Her knuckles turn white. I can do this. she tells herself. I know his language. I know his culture. I can do this. But deep down, a voice in her head is screaming, Run, run, Sarah, get out while you can. But she can't run. She thinks of the bills in the drawer. She thinks of her mom's tired face. She straightens her apron. She forces that mask back onto her face. The clock on the wall ticks. Tick, tock. It is 6:55 p.m. The storm is 5 minutes away. Sarah goes to the wait station to pour water. Her hands are shaking. She puts the pitcher down and clasps her hands together to stop the tremors. She doesn't know it yet, but the next hour is going to strip her bare. It is going to take everything she has. The heavy oak doors at the front of the restaurant swing open. A hush falls over the room. He is here. Takashi Yamamoto walks in, flanked by 2 assistants. He doesn't look like a man coming to dinner. He looks like a general walking onto a battlefield to survey the dead. He scans the room. His eyes are cold, dark, and utterly empty of warmth. His eyes land on table 7. Then, for a brief second, they slide over Sarah. He doesn't see her. He sees a uniform. He sees a servant. Sarah takes a deep breath. The scent of danger is stronger than the scent of food. She picks up the menus. Showtime, she whispers. And the nightmare begins. If you have ever worked in a kitchen, you know the sounds of dinner service. It is a symphony of chaos. The hiss of searing meat. The clatter of pans. The shouting of orders. It is loud. It is aggressive. It is alive. But at 6:55 p.m., 5 minutes before the arrival of Takashi Yamamoto, the kitchen of the royal table did not sound like a kitchen. It sounded like a bomb squad trying to defuse a nuclear warhead. Chef Marco is a giant of a man. He is 6'4" Italian and has a temper that is legendary in London. He once threw a cleaver at a sous chef for overcooking a risotto. He is a man who fears nothing. But tonight, Chef Marco is terrified. He is standing over a pot of consommé, holding a tasting spoon. His hand, usually as steady as a surgeon's, is trembling, just a tiny micro-tremor. But in a professional kitchen, that tremor is the difference between perfection and garbage. He tastes the soup. He frowns. He throws the spoon into the sink with a violent clang. Too salty. He hisses, his voice a tight whisper. It is garbage. Dump it. Start again. But chef, a young cook stammers. Mr. Yamamoto is here in 5 minutes. We don't have time to. I said dump it. Marco spins around, his face red and sweaty. You think I will serve average soup to the Ice Emperor? He will taste the salt and he will ruin me. Do you understand? He will buy this building just to fire us all. This is the power of Takashi Yamamoto. He hasn't even walked through the door yet, and he has already reduced a grown man to a nervous wreck. Out in the dining room, Mr. Peterson is not doing any better. Peterson is standing by the reservation podium. He is clutching a bottle of antacids in his pocket like a rosary. He pops 2 tablets into his mouth and chews them dry. Chalky dust coats his tongue, but it does nothing for the acid burning a hole in his stomach. He checks his watch. 6:58. He looks at table 7. He checks the tablecloth for the 10th time. He adjusts the angle of the fork by 1 millimeter. He wipes a non-existent speck of dust from a wine glass. Williams. He barks. Sarah steps forward from the shadows. She has been standing there, waiting, her hands clasped behind her back. Yes, Mr. Peterson. Let me look at you. Peterson scrutinizes her. He looks at her uniform. He looks at her face. He is looking for a flaw. He is looking for a reason to panic. Stand up straight. Don't slouch. And for God's sake, smile. You look like you're at a funeral. I'm smiling, sir, Sarah says, and she is. But it is a tight, brittle smile. It is a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Listen to me. Peterson steps closer, his breath smelling of mints and fear. When he walks in, you do not speak unless spoken to. You do not make eye contact unless he looks at you. You pour the water. You take the order. You disappear. Do not try to be charming. Do not try to be friendly. He hates friendly. Just be invisible. Invisible. Understood, Sarah says. Across the room, leaning against the bar, Victoria watches. She is sipping a glass of sparkling water, looking like a cat watching a mouse wander into a trap. She catches Sarah's eye and gives a little wave. It is a mocking, cruel gesture. "Goodbye, Sarah," the wave says. "It was nice knowing you." Then, the clock strikes 7 p.m. The heavy oak doors of the restaurant do not open. They swing wide, pushed by two invisible doormen, and the atmosphere in the room changes instantly. It is like someone sucked all the oxygen out of the air. The chatter of the other diners dies down. The clinking of silverware stops. Heads turn. Takashi Yamamoto enters. He does not walk. He glides. He is a man in his late 50s, but he moves with the lethal grace of a jungle cat. He is flanked by two younger men, his assistants, but you don't look at them. You can't look at them. All the gravity in the room is pulling you toward Yamamoto. Let's talk about the way he looks. Because in his world, appearance is a weapon. He is wearing a suit that is cut so sharply it looks like it could draw blood. It is charcoal gray bespoke, tailored on Seville row. The fabric catches the light, shimmering slightly. It probably cost more than Sarah's entire university education. His shirt is stark white, crisp, without a single wrinkle. His tie is a deep blood red silk. But it is the shoes. Sarah finds herself staring at his shoes. They are black leather, polished to a mirror shine. As he walks across the plush carpet, the overhead lights reflect off his shoes. Click, click, click. The sound of his footsteps is heavy, deliberate. He walks like a man who owns the ground beneath his feet. He stops in the entranceway. He doesn't smile. He doesn't nod at the staff. He simply scans the room. His eyes are dark, hooded, and terrifyingly intelligent. He looks at the crystal chandelier. He looks at the velvet curtains. He looks at the other diners. It is an appraisal. He is calculating the value of everything he sees and judging it unworthy. Peterson rushes forward. He is practically bowing as he runs, looking like a servant from a bad period drama. "Mr. Yamamoto, welcome. Welcome to the royal table." Peterson's voice cracks. It is such an honor. A distinct privilege. We are so... Yamamoto doesn't even look at him. He looks right through him. He lifts one hand, a single finger extended. "My table," Yamamoto says. His voice is deep, gravelly, and heavily accented. It is not a request. It is a command. It is the voice of a man who hasn't heard the word no since 1995. "Of course. Right this way." Peterson gestures frantically. He leads the group toward the center of the room, toward table 7. Sarah is standing by the service station, 10 feet away. She watches them approach. Her heart is hammering against her ribs. Thump, 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 thump. It is so loud she is afraid he can hear it. "Just breathe," she tells herself. It's just a man in a suit, but her body knows better. Her palms are sweating. Her mouth is dry. This is primal fear. It is the gazelle watching the lion approach. Yamamoto reaches the table. He waits. One of his assistants rushes forward to pull out his chair. He sits down slowly, smoothing his jacket. He places his hands on the white tablecloth. His fingers are long, manicured, and still. He hasn't looked at Sarah yet. Peterson hovers nervously. "Can I get you anything to start, Mr. Yamamoto? Perhaps a bottle of..." Yamamoto waves his hand again, dismissing him like a fly. "Send the server." Peterson freezes. He looks at Sarah. His eyes are pleading. "Don't mess this up. Please don't mess this up." "Yes, sir." Immediately, Peterson backs away, bumping into Sarah. He grabs her arm, his fingers digging into her bicep. "Go!" He hisses in her ear. He is waiting. This is it. The trap is sprung. Sarah steps forward. That walk from the service station to the table is only 10 feet. But to Sarah, it feels like 10 miles. It feels like walking the Green Mile. Every eye in the restaurant is on her. Victoria is watching from the bar, a smirk playing on her lips. The other staff members are peeking out from the kitchen doors, watching the execution. Sarah forces her legs to move. Left foot, right foot, left foot. She reaches the table. She stands tall. She takes a breath, locks her knees so they don't shake, and puts on the mask. The smile. It is the industrial smile. The smile that says, "I am happy to serve even when you are dying inside." "Good evening, gentlemen," Sarah says. Her voice is steady, surprisingly steady. Welcome to the royal table. My name is Sarah, and I will be taking care of you this evening. Silence. Yamamoto does not look up. He is studying the menu like it is a legal contract he intends to shred. One of the assistants, a young man with nervous eyes and a bad haircut, glances at Sarah and then quickly looks away, as if looking at the help is forbidden. Sarah stands there, waiting. The silence stretches out. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. It is a power move. Yamamoto is establishing dominance. He is telling her, "You do not exist until I acknowledge you." Finally, after what feels like a lifetime, Yamamoto closes the menu. He tosses it onto the table. It lands with a soft slap. He slowly raises his head. For the first time, his eyes meet hers. It is like being doused in ice water. His gaze is flat, cold, and dehumanizing. He looks at her face, then down to her cheap shoes, then back up to her eyes. He is assessing her value. And the verdict is clear in his eyes. Worthless. He doesn't smile. He doesn't say hello. He speaks in English, but the words are sharp and jagged. "Wine list," he says. "That's it. No, please. No, could I have?" Just a demand. "Certainly, sir," Sarah says. She reaches for the leather-bound wine list she is holding against her chest. She hands it to him. As he takes it, his finger brushes against hers. His skin is cold. He opens the list. He scanned the pages, his brow furrowing. He makes a noise in his throat, a sound of disgust. "This election," he says, not looking up. "It is pedestrian. We have an extensive cellar." "Sir," Sarah replies politely, "if there is something specific you're looking for..." Yamamoto snaps the book shut. "I am looking for competence." "Is that on the menu?" The assistants snicker. A low, cruel sound. Sarah feels a flush of heat rise up her neck. It is starting. "I can recommend a 2005 Chateau Margaux," Sarah says, keeping her voice even. "It pairs excellently with our beef tenderloin." Yamamoto looks at her with mock surprise. "Oh, the waitress has an opinion? You can afford to drink Chateau Margaux on your salary?" It is a direct insult, a slap in the face. Sarah tightens her grip on her order pad. "Don't react. Do not react." "No, sir," she says softly, "but I have studied the tasting notes extensively." Yamamoto laughs. It is a dry, humorless bark. Tasting notes. Wonderful. She reads about wine, like a child reads about space travel. He turns to his assistants. He switches to Japanese. And here's where the knife twists. He thinks she is deaf to his words. He thinks he has engaged a privacy filter. "Look at her," he says in Japanese to his colleagues. Standing there like a statue. These English girls, they have no grace, no refinement, just clumsy hands and empty heads. The assistants laugh louder this time, eager to please their boss. Sarah stands there. She hears every syllable. She understands every nuance. The word he used for clumsy is biseiku. It implies ugliness, awkwardness, something unpleasing to the eye. It takes every ounce of her willpower not to flinch. She wants to scream. She wants to throw the water pitcher in his face. She wants to tell him that she has read more books in the last year than he probably has in a decade. But she can't. Not yet. She is a soldier behind enemy lines. And she has to hold her position. "I will take the Margaux," Yamamoto says, switching back to English, looking bored. "But bring me a clean glass. I do not trust the hygiene in this place." "Very good, sir," Sarah says. She turns and walks away. Her back is burning under his gaze. She walks past the bar. Victoria leans over. "He hates you already," Victoria whispers, her eyes dancing with delight. "I can tell. You're doing great, sweetie. Keep it up." Sarah walks into the kitchen. The noise hits her. The heat hits her. She leans against the stainless steel counter for just a second. Her hands are shaking so hard she has to press them against her stomach. She is in the cage with the tiger, and the tiger is hungry. She grabs a bottle of wine. She grabs a polishing cloth. "Okay," she whispers to the bottle. "You want to play games, Mr. Yamamoto? Let's play." She takes a deep breath. She pushes off the counter. and she walks back out into the line of fire. The next 45 minutes at table 7 were not a dinner service. They were a vivisection. Sarah returns to the table with the bottle of Chateau Margaux 2005. She cradles it like a newborn baby. Her hands are steady, but only because she is clenching her muscles so tight they're screaming in protest. She presents the label to Takashi Yamamoto. The 2005 Margaux. Sir, she says softly. Yamamoto does not look at the bottle. He looks at her hands. He is checking for a tremor. He wants to see fear. When he doesn't see it, his eyes narrow. Open it, he commands. Sarah pulls out her corkscrew. This is a dangerous moment. Old corks can be brittle. If she breaks the cork, if she crumbles it into the wine, it is game over. She works with surgical precision. The metal worm twists into the cork. Squeak, twist, squeak. In the silence of the dining room, the sound is deafening. She pulls. A soft pop echoes. Perfect. She pours a small amount into his glass for the tasting. The red liquid swirls, dark and rich. Yamamoto picks up the glass. He swirls it violently, watching the legs of the wine run down the side of the crystal. He inhales deeply. Then he looks at Sarah. Tell me, he says, his voice deceptively casual. Why did you recommend this specific vintage? Well, sir, Sarah begins, reciting the standard script. The 2005 was an exceptional year for Bordeaux. The weather conditions were ideal, leading to... Stop. Yamamoto interrupts. He puts the glass down. I do not want the brochure. Any idiot can memorize a brochure. I asked you about this wine. Why this one? He leans forward, the predator closing in. Tell me about the soil, he says. Sarah blinks. The soil, sir? Yes. The terroir. The Margaux vineyards have a very specific soil composition that distinguishes them from the Pauillac just to the north. What is it? The two assistants smirk. They know this game. The boss likes to expose people. He likes to prove that they are pretending to know things they don't understand. But they don't know Sarah. Sarah stands a little taller. She closes her eyes for a split second, accessing the library in her brain. She remembers late nights in the university library, reading about French geography because she couldn't afford a plane ticket to see it herself. The soil in Margaux is predominantly gravel. Sarah says clearly, specifically, a deep layer of white gravel from the Garonne River, sitting on top of a subsoil of clay and limestone. The gravel provides excellent drainage, which forces the vines to root deeper to find water. This struggle creates a more delicate, floral structure in the Cabernet Sauvignon, compared to the heavier clay soils of Pauillac, which produce a more robust, tannic wine. Silence. The smile vanishes from the face of the junior assistant. He looks at Sarah with genuine surprise. Yamamoto stares at her. For a second, just a fraction of a second, there is a flicker of something in his eyes. Was it surprise? Was it annoyance? He hates it. He hates that she knew the answer. He wanted to catch her stumbling. He wanted to see her apologize for her ignorance. Instead, she just outsmarted him on his own turf. He takes a sip of the wine. He swirls in his mouth. He swallows. Adequate, he grunts. Poor, he doesn't say good job. He doesn't say you are right. He dismisses her knowledge as if it were a parlor trick. Sarah pours the wine for the table. She moves around them like a ghost. She feels a tiny spark of victory, but it is quickly extinguished because the night has only just begun. The appetizers arrive. Seared scallops with truffle foam. It is Chef Marco's masterpiece. Sarah places the plate in front of Yamamoto. Seared scallops, sir. Enjoy. She steps back to her station. She watches. Yamamoto picks up his fork. He cuts a piece of the scallop. He puts it in his mouth. He chews once. Twice. Then he stops. He spits the scallop into his napkin. He drops the fork onto the plate with a loud clatter. He turns his head slowly toward Sarah. He doesn't shout. He doesn't wave his arms. He just looks at her. And this is where the torture truly begins. The look he gives her is devoid of humanity. It is the way you look at a cockroach that has crawled across your kitchen floor. It makes you feel dirty just for existing in his line of sight. Take it away, he says. His voice is barely a whisper. Is something wrong, sir? Sarah asks, stepping forward. It is rubber, he says flatly. It is overcooked garbage. Do not insult me with this. I will speak to the chef immediately, sir. Do not speak to him, Yamamoto says, turning away. Just get this filth off my table. Sarah takes a plate. Her hands are shaking now. She walks back to the kitchen. Chef Marco is waiting. Well, did he like it? He said it was rubber. Sarah whispers. He spit it out. Marco's face goes purple. He grabs the plate from her. He tastes the remaining scallop. It is perfect. Marco screams, throwing the plate against the wall. It shatters into 1,000 pieces. It is perfect. The man is a monster. He is trying to break us. And he is right. Yamamoto isn't critiquing the food. He is playing a power game. He wants to see how much abuse they will take before they snap. Sarah has to go back out there. She has to go back to the table 3 more times. The second appetizer. He eats 2 bites and pushes it away. The soup. He says it is lukewarm. It is steaming hot. With every complaint, he chips away a little more of Sarah's armor. Victoria is loving it. She leans against the bar, whispering to the bartender. Look at her face, she giggles. She's going to cry. I give it 10 minutes. She's going to crack. Sarah can feel the tears pricking the back of her eyes. She fights them down. Not here, she thinks. Do not give him the satisfaction. Cry in the shower later. Cry when you are holding your paycheck. But do not cry now. Then comes the main course. This is a turning point. This is the moment the universe decides to play a cruel joke. The dish is beef Wellington. It is heavy. The plates are large, ceramic slabs. Sarah loads 3 of them onto her left arm. The weight is immense. Her muscles are burning from hours of carrying trays, but she balances them perfectly. In her right hand, she carries a crystal water pitcher to refill their glasses. She approaches table 7. The atmosphere at the table is toxic. Yamamoto is lecturing his 2 assistants. He is berating them in Japanese about a failed deal in Singapore. The assistants are staring at their laps, terrified. Sarah moves in. The beef Wellington. Sir, she says. She places the first plate in front of the assistant on the left. Smooth. Professional. She moves to the assistant on the right. She places the plate. Perfect. Now, she moves to Yamamoto. He is sitting back in his chair, his arms crossed, still talking aggressively to the young man on his right. Sarah leans in. She has to reach slightly across the table to place the plate down properly. As she leans, she brings the water pitcher in her right hand closer to the table, preparing to pour. And then it happens. The assistant on the right, the young man with a bad haircut, decides this is the moment to try and defend himself against his boss's tirade. He gestures with his hands. An emphatic, nervous gesture. But, sir, I thought, his hand hits the underside of the table edge. It is a small bump, hard enough to make the silverware rattle, hard enough to vibrate the table. But for Sarah, balancing a heavy pitcher of water, that vibration is catastrophic. Let's slow this down. Let's look at this moment frame by frame. Sarah feels the table jolt against her hip. Her balance shifts. The water pitcher in her right hand tilts, just a fraction of an inch. She corrects it instantly. Her reflexes are fast. She pulls the pitcher back. But physics is faster. A single drop of water escapes the spout. Just one drop. It hangs in the air for a moment, catching the light of the chandelier. It looks like a diamond. It spins as it falls. Time seems to stretch. Sarah watches the drop fall. Her eyes widen. Her breath stops in her throat. No. No. Please, God, no. The drop falls past Yamamoto's shoulder. It falls past a silk tie. It lands with silent, devastating wetness, right on the sleeve of his charcoal gray, 5,000-pound suit jacket. Splat. It is a tiny spot, maybe the size of a dime. On any other day, in any other restaurant, with any other customer, it would be nothing. You wipe it off. It dries in 2 minutes. You laugh about it, but this is not any other customer. The world stops spinning. The sound in the restaurant seems to be sucked into a vacuum. Yamamoto freezes. He is mid-sentence, but his mouth snaps shut. He slowly, agonizingly slowly, lowers his gaze to his arm. He stares at the dark spot on the gray wool. He stares at it like it is a bullet wound, like she has just stabbed him. The two assistants stop breathing. They look at the spot, then at Sarah, with eyes full of horror. They know what is coming. Sarah feels the blood drain from her entire body. Her hands go numb. The pitcher feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. Sarah starts. Her voice is a croak. I am so sorry, sir. Let me... She reaches into her apron for a clean napkin. She moves to dab the water. Yamamoto raises his hand. Stop. He doesn't touch her. He just holds his hand up, palm out. A barrier. He looks at the water spot again. Then he looks up at her. The fury in his eyes is cold. It is absolute zero. It is not the anger of a man who got wet. It is the anger of a god who has been touched by a mortal. He doesn't speak to her. He decides in that moment that she is no longer worth speaking to. She has ceased to be a human being worthy of English. He turns his head slowly to his assistants. He turns his back on her, and he begins to speak in Japanese. He thinks he is safe. He thinks his words are a secret code, a private channel where he can unleash his true cruelty without consequence. He opens his mouth, and the venom starts to flow. Look at this, he says in Japanese, his voice low and smooth. Look at what this incompetent creature has done. Sarah stands there, frozen, the napkin in her hand. She hears him. She processes the syntax. She recognizes the vocabulary. And her heart breaks into 1,000,000 pieces. The drop of water is still soaking into the expensive wool of Takashi Yamamoto's sleeve. The silence in the room is heavy. It is oppressive. Yamamoto turns to his two assistants. He does not even look at Sarah anymore. To him, she is already gone. She is a broken object that needs to be discarded. He leans in, and he begins to speak in Japanese. Now listen closely, because what he says next is not just an insult. It is a hate crime wrapped in a whisper. He speaks fast, his words flowing like toxic sludge. Look at this. He sneers in Japanese. Look at this filth. This is why I hate coming to this country. They hire these creatures. Did you see her face? Vacant. Empty. She probably has the IQ of a golden retriever. The assistants giggle. It is a nervous, wet sound. Heh. But Yamamoto isn't finished. He wants to hurt her. He wants to perform for his audience. He points a manicured finger at Sarah, still assuming she is deaf to his words. She is a bureaucrat of the service industry. He says, Stop. Let me explain that word to you. Bureaucrat. In Japan, historically, this referred to the untouchable caste, the people who did the dirty work, the butchers, the executioners, people who were considered spiritually and physically unclean. To call someone that in modern society is beyond rude, it is a slur. It implies that Sarah is not just bad at her job, but that she is fundamentally genetically inferior, that she is dirty, useless. Yamamoto finishes, brushing the water off his sleeve with exaggerated disgust. Just a pretty face with nothing behind the eyes. A waste of oxygen. The two assistants laugh harder now. They are relieved the target is not on their backs. They look at Sarah with pity and disdain. They see a dumb waitress standing there, humiliated, probably wondering why the nice men are laughing. But they are wrong. Sarah is not wondering. Sarah is translating. She is standing there, clutching her tray, and every single syllable lands in her brain like a meteor strike. Creature, filth, empty, waste of oxygen. Time slows down for Sarah. In this moment, she has a choice. It is a choice that defines a life. She could cry. The tears are right there, burning hot behind her eyelids. She could run to the bathroom, sob into a paper towel, and go home to her cold apartment and her pile of bills. That is what the victim does. That is what the world expects her to do. But then, something shifts. Sarah looks at Yamamoto. She looks at his arrogant jawline. She looks at the way he dismisses her humanity. And suddenly, she remembers who she is. She remembers the nights in the library at Waseda University, studying until her eyes bled. She remembers her thesis on Keigo, the complex, beautiful system of honorifics in the Japanese language. She remembers her mother scrubbing floors on her knees. So Sarah could buy books. She thinks, my mother is worth 10 of you. She thinks, I am not a creature. I am a scholar. The heat in her face cools down. Her heart rate slows. The fear evaporates, replaced by a cold, crystalline clarity. She is no longer Sarah the waitress. She is Sarah the linguistic weapon. Slowly, deliberately, she places the water pitcher on the side table. Clink. She folds a napkin over her arm. She stands perfectly straight. Shoulders back. Chin up. The assistants are still chuckling. Yamamoto is reaching for his wine glass, ready to wash the taste of this incident out of his mouth. And then Sarah speaks. She does not speak in English. She speaks in Japanese. And not just any Japanese. She speaks in Sonkeigo. Yamamoto-sama, she begins. Her voice is not loud. It is soft. It is calm. It cuts through the laughter like a katana through silk. The laughter dies instantly. Yamamoto freezes. His hand stops halfway to his mouth. The wine ripples in the glass. Sarah continues. Her accent is perfect. It is not the accent of a tourist. It is the accent of a Tokyo news anchor. Precise, elegant, flawless. I must deeply apologize for the disturbance I've caused to your garments, she says in Japanese. However, I feel compelled to correct a misunderstanding regarding my intellectual capacity. The assistants' jaws drop, literally drop. Their eyes bulge out of their heads. Yamamoto slowly turns his head. He looks at her. For the first time tonight, he really looks at her. He looks at a man who just heard a dog recite Shakespeare. Sarah locks eyes with him. She does not blink. You stated that my profession reflects my intelligence. She continues, the Japanese syllables rolling off her tongue like poetry. That is a fascinating hypothesis. However, perhaps a man of your immense stature should have learned by now that wisdom is not determined by the uniform one wears, but by the character one displays. She pauses. She lets that sink in. And clearly, she adds, her voice dropping an octave, that is a lesson you have failed to master. Okay, stop. Freeze the frame right there. We need to talk about what just happened, because if you don't speak Japanese, you might miss the genius of this moment. You might think Sarah just insulted him, but it is so much deeper than that. In Japan, language is a hierarchy. You have casual speech, polite speech, and then you have Keigo, honorifics. This is the language used to speak to emperors, to gods, to guests of the highest order. Sarah isn't yelling at him. She isn't using slang. She is using the most incredibly polite, high-class, respectful grammar possible. Why is that a weapon? Because by using Keigo, she is proving two things. First, she is proving that she is educated, highly educated. You don't learn this level of Japanese from anime. You learn from years of rigorous academic study. She is showing him that the help is smarter than he is. Second, and this is a killer, she is using his own culture to shame him. In Japan, the person who loses their temper, the person who insults others, is the one who loses face. By staying perfectly calm and polite while he was being a monster, she is holding up a mirror. She is saying, look at how civilized I am, and look at how barbaric you are. She is killing him with kindness. Literally, the silence in the restaurant is now deafening. It is a physical weight. Yamamoto is pale, not just white, ghostly. His mouth is opening and closing like a fish out of water. He cannot process this. His brain is short-circuiting. But Sarah isn't done yet. She has one more bullet in the chamber. She looks at the two assistants. They are trembling. Furthermore, Sarah says, turning back to Yamamoto, if we are discussing competence, I feel it is my duty to point out a grammatical error you made earlier. Yamamoto blinks. What? When you address your associates. Sarah says, gesturing to the terrified men, you use the humble form kinjugo to criticize them. But since they are your subordinates, the appropriate form would have been simple tainaigo, to use humble language towards one's own staff while insulting them. Well, it lacks a certain sophistication. She smiles, a real, genuine, dangerous smile. But perhaps accuracy is less important to you than the sound of your own voice. Boom. It is over. Whatever power Takashi Yamamoto thought he had, it is gone. It has evaporated. Sarah Williams, the waitress from East London, has just dismantled a billionaire on a molecular level. From across the room, Victoria drops a wine glass. Crash! The sound shatters the spell. Red wine splashes onto the white carpet, looking like blood. But nobody looks at it. Everyone is staring at table 7. Mr. Peterson, the manager, is clutching his chest. He thinks he is having a heart attack. He doesn't understand Japanese, but he understands tone. He knows that his waitress has just spoken to the VIP in his own tongue. He thinks she has just cursed him out. He thinks the restaurant is finished. But look at Yamamoto. He is not screaming. He is not calling security. He is slowly lowering his wine glass to the table. His hand is shaking. He looks at the spot on his sleeve. Then he looks at Sarah. The arrogance is gone. The Ice Emperor mask is melted. In its place is something raw, something human. He is in shock. This is a man who is surrounded by yes men, people who laugh at his bad jokes, people who agree with his wrong opinions. He lives in a bubble of confirmation bias. And this girl, this invisible girl in a cheap uniform, just popped the bubble with a needle made of pure truth. He clears his throat. It is a rough, jagged sound. Who? He starts. His voice cracks. He tries again. Who are you? He asks in Japanese. It is not a demand this time. It is a genuine question. He really wants to know. He needs to know. Sarah takes a breath. She feels light. She feels like she is floating. My name is Sarah Williams. She replies in Japanese. I am your server this evening. She doesn't add sir. She doesn't bow. She stands eye to eye with him. Yamamoto leans back in his chair. He runs a hand through his perfect hair, messing it up for the first time. He looks at his assistants. Did you know? He asks them. They shake their heads frantically. No, sir. We had no idea. Yamamoto looks back at Sarah. A strange expression crosses his face. It looks like pain, but it also looks like relief. You understood everything? He asks. Everything I said? Every word. Sarah says, including the parts about my intelligence, and my hygiene, and my worth as a human being. Yamamoto flinches. He actually flinches. For the first time in 30 years, Takashi Yamamoto feels shame. It washes over him. He realizes that this creature he insulted is not a creature. She is a mirror, and what he sees in the reflection is ugly. He looks down at his hands. He begins. The great tycoon is at a loss for words. Sarah waits. She has won. She knows she has won. But she doesn't gloat. That is beneath her. She picks up the water pitcher. Will there be anything else, Yamamoto-san? She asks. She uses a suffix, san. Polite, standard, not the godlike reverence he is used to, just the respect due to a normal human. Yamamoto looks up. His eyes are wide. Wait, he says. He stands up. The chair scrapes loudly against the floor. Peterson gasps. This is it, he thinks. He is going to hit her. He is going to storm out. But Yamamoto does not storm out. He stands in front of Sarah. He is taller than her, but right now he looks smaller. He looks at her with a mixture of confusion and awe. Sit down, he says. Sarah blinks. Excuse me? Sit down, Yamamoto repeats. He gestures to the empty chair opposite him. Please. The word hangs in the air. Please. The assistants look like they're going to faint. Yamamoto never says please. I am working, sir. Sarah says, I cannot sit. I am buying the restaurant's time. Yamamoto says. He pulls a wad of cash from his pocket and throws it on the table. It is thousands of pounds. There. Now you are not working. Sit. Sarah hesitates. She looks at Peterson. Peterson is hyperventilating near the kitchen door. He nods frantically. Sit. For God's sake, sit. Sarah looks back at Yamamoto. She sees the curiosity in his eyes. She sees the desperation. He doesn't want to be served anymore. He wants to understand. Slowly, carefully, Sarah pulls out the chair, and she sits. At the center of the finest restaurant in London, the waitress sits at the billionaire's table. The game has changed. The hierarchy has been inverted, and the conversation that is about to happen will change everything. The next morning, London did not look like the same city to Sarah Williams. Usually, when she walked the streets of Canary Wharf, she felt small. The skyscrapers were giants of glass and steel, towering over her, screaming that she did not belong. They were fortresses for the rich, and she was just an ant scurrying on the pavement. But today, the buildings didn't look like giants. They looked like puzzles. And she had the key. It is 8:55 a.m. Sarah stands at the base of the Yamamoto Tower. It is a monolith of black glass that seems to pierce the gray clouds. It is intimidating. It is designed to be intimidating. She is wearing her interview outfit. It is not designer. It is a navy blue blazer she bought at a charity shop and a white blouse she ironed 3 times this morning. She doesn't have the armor of expensive fabric. She has something better. She has the armor of a woman who has nothing left to lose. She walks into the lobby. It is silent and smells of sterilized air and money. Name? The receptionist asks, not looking up. Sarah Williams. She says, "To see Mr. Yamamoto." The receptionist pauses. She looks up. Her eyes widen. "Oh, yes, Miss Williams. He is expecting you. Top floor, the private elevator. He is expecting you." Those 4 words change the gravity in the room. Yesterday, she was a waitress. Today, she is expected. Sarah steps into the elevator. It has no buttons. It just shoots upward. Her ears pop. Floor 10, floor 20, floor 40. She watches London shrink beneath her feet. The royal table, that place of torture, is just a speck now. The tiny apartment in East London is invisible. Ding. The doors open. Yamamoto's office is not a room. It is a cavern. It is vast, open, and terrifyingly empty. There is a desk the size of a small car. There are floor-to-ceiling windows that offer a panoramic view of the Thames. And there he is. Takashi Yamamoto is standing by the window, his back to her. He is looking out at the city. He is trying to conquer. He is not wearing the armor of the suit jacket today. He is in his shirt sleeves. He looks smaller. "Human, you came," he says. He doesn't turn around. "You asked me not to be late," Sarah replies. Her voice is steady. It bounces off the glass walls. Yamamoto turns. He looks tired. There are bags under his eyes. The Ice Emperor didn't sleep well last night. He looks at Sarah, and for a moment there is an awkward silence. The dynamic has shifted. They are not customer and server anymore. They are 2 people standing in the wreckage of a collision. "Please," he says, gesturing to a chair in front of his desk. "Sit." Sarah sits. She crosses her legs. She folds her hands in her lap. She waits. Yamamoto walks to his desk and leans against it. He doesn't sit behind it. He doesn't want the barrier. He crosses his arms and studies her. "I fired them," he says suddenly. Sarah blinks. "I beg your pardon?" "My assistants," Yamamoto says. "The 2 men from last night. I fired them this morning." "Why?" Sarah asks. "They only did what you trained them to do." Yamamoto laughs. It is a bitter, dry sound. "That is exactly why. They were mirrors, and I did not like the reflection. They were weak. They laughed because I laughed. They hated because I hated. They were useless to me." He pushes off the desk and walks toward the window again. "I have built an empire, Miss Williams," he says softly. "I own buildings in Tokyo, New York, Singapore, London. I have thousands of employees. I have lawyers. I have accountants. I have armies of people who work for me." He turns to look at her, his eyes intense. "But do you know what I do not have? I do not have a single person who tells me the truth." He paces a room. "I have translators." He continues. "I pay them very well. They translate words. If a British partner says, 'That is an interesting idea,' my translator tells me, he thinks the idea is interesting. But that is not what the British man means, is it?" Sarah shakes her head. "No. In British business culture, that is interesting usually means that is terrible and we will never do it." "Exactly." Yamamoto slaps his hand on the desk. "Exactly. And because my translators only translate words, not meaning I lose deals. I look foolish. I misunderstand the silence between the sentences." He walks over to Sarah and looks down at her. I need a bridge, Miss Williams. I do not need a servant. I do not need a dictionary. I need someone who understands the soul of Japan and the mind of the West. Someone who can stand in a room and tell me what is actually happening. He pauses. I need someone who is not afraid of me. Sarah looks at him. She sees the loneliness in him. It is the loneliness of a man on top of a mountain who has forgotten how to climb down. And you think that's me? She asks. You humiliated me in a public restaurant, Yamamoto says. A ghost of a smile touches his lips. You corrected my grammar. You questioned my character. You risked your job, your livelihood, just to defend your dignity. He leans in close. That is the most valuable thing I have seen in 10 years. He walks back to his desk and picks up a folder. He slides it across the polished wood. This is a contract, he says. Position, Junior Cultural Liaison. You will travel with me. You will sit in meetings. You will decode the world for me. He watches her face. Salary, he adds. £60,000 a year, plus bonuses, plus a housing allowance in central London. Sarah feels the air leave her lungs. £60,000. She does the math in her head instantly. That is 5 years of her mother's wages. That is her student debt wiped out in 12 months. That is heating that works. That is food that isn't toast. That is freedom. Her hand twitches toward the folder. It is so easy. Just sign. Just say yes. But then she stops. She looks at the folder. Then she looks at Yamamoto. She remembers Victoria. She remembers Mr. Peterson. She remembers the feeling of the water pitcher in her hand. If she takes this money just for the money, she is selling herself. She is letting him buy her silence. She is becoming just another expensive accessory in his collection. She pulls her hand back. No, Sarah says. Yamamoto freezes. His eyebrows shoot up. No, is the salary insufficient? I can go to 70. The money is fine, Sarah says. The money is incredible, but I have conditions. Conditions? Yamamoto looks amused. You are negotiating? You are a waitress, Miss Williams. I was a waitress. Sarah corrects him sharply. Now, I'm the person you need. And if you want me, you have to listen. She stands up. She needs to be on her feet for this. She walks to the window and looks out at the city. She channels every ounce of strength she has. Condition number 1, she says, turning to face him. Respect. Absolute, non-negotiable respect. You will never speak to me the way you spoke to me last night. You will never speak to anyone on our team that way. If you shout, if you demean, if you act like the emperor, I walk. Immediately, Yamamoto stares at her. He nods slowly. Agreed. I am trying to change. You will be my reminder. Condition number 2, Sarah continues. I am a student. I have 3 months left of my master's degree. My education comes first. I will work for you, but my thesis takes priority. I am not dropping out to carry your briefcase. Agreed. Yamamoto says quickly, I value education. That is why I hired you. And condition number 3, Sarah says. She hesitates. This is a big one. This is a crazy one. She thinks of her mom, rubbing her aching back after a 12-hour shift. She thinks of the kids in her neighborhood in East London who have brilliant minds but will never see the inside a university because they can't afford the bus fare, the housing allowance. Sarah says, I don't want it. Yamamoto frowns. You want to live in that basement in Hackney? No. Sarah says, I want you to take that money, and I want you to match it, double it, triple it, and do what with it? I want you to start a scholarship fund. Sarah says, her voice is ringing with passion now. The Yamamoto Global Scholarship, for students from low-income backgrounds who want to study languages, kids who have the brain but not the bank account, kids like me. She steps closer to the desk. You said you wanted to build bridges, Mr. Yamamoto. Well, bridges are expensive. You want to fix your image? You want to be more than just a rich bully? Then invest in the people you used to ignore. The silence in the room is total. Yamamoto stares at her. He looks shocked. In his world, everyone wants a bigger car. Everyone wants a corner office. No one asks to give the money away. He looks down at the contract. He picks up a heavy gold fountain pen. He turns it over in his fingers. Sarah holds her breath. Did she push too far? Is he going to kick her out? Yamamoto looks up, and then, for the first time since she met him, he smiles. It is not a smirk. It is not a sneer. It is a genuine, warm, human smile. It reaches his eyes. Miss Williams, he says, shaking his head in disbelief. You are a terrible negotiator. Sarah's heart sinks. You could have asked for a Porsche, he says. You could have asked for a penthouse. I don't want a Porsche. Sarah says, I want a legacy. Yamamoto stands up. He walks around the desk. He extends his hand. Done, he says. We will create the fund. We will put 5 students through university next year. Is that acceptable? Sarah smiles. A real, radiant smile. That is acceptable. She shakes his hand. His grip is firm, respectful. It is the handshake of equals. Welcome to the team. Sarah, he says. Thank you, Yamamoto-san, she replies. She picks up the pen. She signs a contract. The scratch of the nib on the paper sounds like the beginning of a new life. She isn't just signing a job offer. She is signing a peace treaty between 2 worlds. As she puts the pen down, Yamamoto looks at her one last time. You know, he says quietly, my Japanese is rusty. I have been speaking the language of business for too long. Perhaps you can teach me how to speak properly again. Sarah nods. I would like that. She turns to leave. She walks to the elevator. When the doors close and she is alone in the metal box, she doesn't scream. She doesn't jump up and down. She just leans her head back against the wall and closes her eyes. She thinks of the drop of water falling on the sleeve. She thinks of the insult. She thinks of fear. And then she whispers to the empty elevator. We did it, Mom. We did it. The elevator shoots down. But Sarah isn't going down. She is rising. This is not just a story about a waitress getting a job. This is a story about the moment the world realized that you cannot judge a book by its cover, and you certainly cannot judge a woman by her apron. But the story isn't over yet, because winning the job is one thing. Surviving the world of high-stakes international business, that is a whole new battle. And Sarah is just getting started. 3 years. That is 1,095 days. In the grand scheme of the universe, 3 years is a blink of an eye. But in the life of Sarah Williams, it was enough to rewrite destiny. Let's take a look at her now. We are in Tokyo. It is spring. The cherry blossoms are falling like pink snow over the streets of Shinjuku. In a glass-walled conference room on the 45th floor of the Yamamoto Global Headquarters, a meeting is taking place. Around the table sit 12 of the most powerful real estate developers in Asia. They are serious men who control billions. And at the head of the table stands a woman. She is wearing a tailored navy suit. Her shoes are Italian leather, and they do not have scuffs on the heels. Her hair is not pulled back in a severe punishment bun. It falls loosely around her shoulders. She is speaking. She is navigating a complex negotiation between a French architectural firm and the Japanese board. She switches seamlessly between English, Japanese, and French. She translates not just the words, but the intent. She softens the blows. She clarifies the silence. She is the bridge. This is Sarah, the girl who used to count pennies to buy toast. The girl who was told she was invisible. Sitting to her right is Takashi Yamamoto. He looks different too. The hard lines of cruelty around his mouth have softened. He listens more than he speaks now. When Sarah talks, he doesn't interrupt. He nods. He takes notes. He has learned the lesson that cost him his pride that night at the royal table. He has learned that wisdom can come from anywhere, but the real victory isn't in this boardroom. The real victory is happening 4,000 miles away in a small lecture hall at London University. A young boy named Liam is sitting in the front row. Liam grew up in a council estate in South London. His dad is a mechanic. His mom drives a bus. Liam loves languages, but he never thought he would see the world. He thought his life was already mapped out within a 5-mile radius of his block. But today, Liam is holding a letter. It is an acceptance letter. It says, "Congratulations. You have been awarded the Yamamoto Williams Global Scholarship. Your tuition, housing, and travel expenses for your year abroad in Kyoto are fully covered. Liam is crying. He is trying to hide it, but he is crying because he knows his life just changed. He knows the chain of poverty has just been broken, and he has no idea that the reason he is sitting there, the reason he has a future, is because 3 years ago, a waitress refused to be treated like garbage. That is the butterfly effect of dignity. One moment of courage didn't just save Sarah. It saved Liam. It saved the 5 students before him. It saved the hundreds who will come after him. So, why does this story matter? Why have you listened to me tell this story for the last hour? It is not because we love to see billionaires get owned. Although, let's be honest, that is very satisfying. It is because Sarah's story is your story. We all have a royal table in our lives. Maybe it is a boss who talks over you in meetings. Maybe it is a customer who treats you like you are stupid. Maybe it is a family member who makes you feel small. Maybe it is just the world itself, telling you that because you don't have money or status or the right clothes, you don't matter. They are wrong. I want you to listen to me closely now. I want you to really hear this. There's a profound difference between service and servitude. Service is noble. Service is giving your energy, your time, and your skill to help others. Sarah was a great waitress because she took pride in service. There's honor in bringing food to a table. There's honor in cleaning a floor. There's honor in driving a bus. But servitude? Servitude is when you let someone else define your value. Servitude is when you believe that because you serve, you are beneath them. Sarah broke out of servitude not when she signed the contract, but when she spoke the truth. And here is the psychological key. This is the secret weapon. Knowledge. Yamamoto could buy the restaurant. He could buy the building. He could buy the clothes on Sarah's back. But he could not buy what was inside her head. He could not buy the thousands of hours she spent studying kanji flashcards. He could not buy the nuance of her accent. He could not buy her intellect. That belonged to her. And that is the lesson you need to take away from this. The world can take your job. The economy can crash and take your savings. People can leave you. Bad luck can take your house. But they can never, ever take what you know, your education, your skills, your curiosity, the books you have read, the languages you have learned, the craft you have mastered. That is your fortress. That is the one piece of property that is truly yours. So, the next time you feel invisible, the next time someone looks through you like you are furniture, the next time you feel like you are drowning in a sea of arrogance, remember Sarah. Remember that the quietest person in the room is often the one holding all the cards. Remember that your uniform does not define your soul. And remember that if you arm yourself with knowledge, if you fill your mind with treasure, there is no billionaire on earth who can make you poor. Stand tall, speak clearly, and never let anyone tell you who you are. This has been the story of the waitress and the billionaire. I want to know about you. Have you ever been underestimated? Have you ever had a moment where you had to stand up for your dignity against someone powerful? Tell me your story in the comments below. I read every single one. Let's build a community of people who refuse to be invisible. If this story moved you, if it made you feel a spark of fire in your chest, please share it. Send it to a friend who is working hard and needs a reminder of their worth. Send it to a student who is struggling. Send it to anyone who needs to know that giants can fall. My name is Gemini. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me your time. Now, go out there and show the world what you are made of. Class dismissed.